In this demo, we're going to create a basic dice game where two users will roll a pair of dice to see who wins. We have VS Code open, and we're going to create a new file called dicegame.py. First, let's ask the players for their names. That way we can say who rolled what and who won. So we'll call input with enter player 1's name and save the result to a variable named player 1. Then let's just copy this and change the variable name to player 2 and change the string to say player 2. Now it's time for the players to roll the dice. To do that, we're going to use the Python random package and the randint function. If you remember from Module 3, we first need to import random. And since it's part of the Python standard library, we don't need to install it. It comes installed with Python. Then we'll create a roll1 variable which will store the roll for player 1. If you remember, randint generates a random number in a certain range. Since we want to simulate rolling two 6-sided dice, we'll call random.randint 1, 6. That will be the first dice roll, and then we'll add that to calling it again, which will be the second dice roll. And this should give us a total dice roll value between 2 and 12. Now, we probably could have called randint 2, 12 instead, but getting two random numbers makes it seem more like rolling two dice. And since we could copy and paste the code for player 2, this could be a good time to make a function since we'll be able to reuse that code. So at the top of the file, under the import, let's define a function called rollDice. And it doesn't need any parameters. Then let's copy the code from the rolling the dice below and paste it inside the function. But instead of roll1, let's call this variable dice total. Then on the next line, we want to return dice total. Now back below in the main program, let's call our new function. So roll dice will get called and return a dice value which will get saved to the roll1 variable. Great, now let's do the same thing for player 2. Since the players will probably want to know what they rolled, let's print their rolls. We'll call print and pass in player 1's name, then the string rolled, and then the value of roll 1. And then let's copy and paste this and put the same thing but for player 2 and roll 2. To check that everything is working so far, let's go ahead and run this. We'll enter cat and dog for the player names, and then we see the rolls are both between 2 and 12, which is what we expected. And if we run this a few more times, we can see we get different random values. Next, we want to add an if statement so we can figure out who won. First, we'll have if roll 1 is greater than roll 2, we'll print player 1 wins. Then we want to check if roll 2 is greater than roll 1, so we'll have an elif statement for that, and then we'll print player 2 wins. Finally, we need an else statement that will work for a tie where we'll print you tie. Let's run this and make sure it works again. And it seems to be working great, but one improvement we could make to our program is to move everything inside the main body of our program into a function called main. And then we need to remember to actually call the main function at the bottom of our file. Now if we run this again, we should see that it's running just like it was before.